So what are you going to do? You go up to a place like, say, Nashua, New Hampshire.
Yep.
Okay, and you're walking along Main Street in Nashua, New Hampshire. You get a lot of Democrats, Independents, and Republicans. All three have been attracted to you in the past in terms of voting for you. And they say, okay, it's your party, your Republican Party. We got a problem up here with migrants. We got a problem up here with fentanyl. We got a problem up here with lack of daycare. But the Republican Party seems unable to govern, and they're not interested in governing. They're interested in destroying things. Why should I vote for you?
Well, what I'd say to them is, you got to judge each Republican on their own merits. And they look at my record in my 8 years in New Jersey. I did govern. Some people will think that, I governed too much. You talk to some folks who say I was involved in making sure that things got done the right way. And you need a president now who's going to get involved in that level of personal relationships that can lead to policy wins. This is still a personal business. And I think that we haven't had a president who has either been willing or able to do that since George W. Bush in his first part of his first term, pre-9/11. And since that time, we haven't had it. And it's necessary, Joe. And that's what I would say to folks is that, people get fascinated with, let me elect a businessman president. Let me elect someone who, has no executive experience in government. We've seen that now with Barack Obama. We've seen it with Donald Trump. And we've seen it with Joe Biden. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And that's what I'd say to them. This is less about party than it is about who you put at the top and whether they know what the hell they're doing. And I know what the hell I'm doing.
I just want to check you on that one, though. Joe Biden has had more bipartisan wins than any other president in the 21st century. So,
that's a low bar, Joe.
By the way, more than any president of the 21st century, you can say a low bar. But by the way, I agree with you when people say, let's get a CEO. No, you need somebody that knows how to do the give and take. And you certainly did that in New Jersey. I had a lot of Democrats in New Jersey come up and say how much they loved you whenever I would see them at events, that they loved working with you. So you were able to do that. I need you to tell me why Joe Biden, who has had more bipartisan wins than anybody else, despite the fact his own party didn't want him to do it. How is he not an effective executive?
Look, because he's not doing the things that executives need to do to sell their programs to the public and to garner that support. So on Ukraine, I think that the major failure on Ukraine is that the president is not selling how important it is for us to do this. And he's not out there making the case on a regular basis.
Governor, I don't mean to interrupt, but my God, it's hard to go back to the beginning of this war and see how he navigated between alliances in Europe and across the world and working with Republicans and Democrats here and there and not say he's done a remarkable job.
We're talking about two different things, Joe. You see a diminution of support on both sides of the aisle among the public for this war. And I think that is dangerous and tragic. And we need a president who has the energy and the ability to articulate why this is so important to America. And he hasn't done that.
I just want to clarify. You're not talking so much how he's navigated what the United States has done with Ukraine. You're talking about the ability to sell it at home politically, that and his other programs.
Because that's the only way any of these things are sustainable, Joe. You know that. If you don't sell this stuff to the public, ultimately your support withers away because the attention span, rightfully for the American people, is short if you're not continuing to pound the messages that you need to pound. And the only thing I would say about the management of the war is that I think that he has been too timid in providing all of the weapons that Ukraine needs to be able to win the war as quickly as they need to do it. And shortening this war, the only way to shorten it is to make sure that they have everything they need to be able to finish the job with Russia. And I think he has been slow on that draw. Now, but by the way, he's done much better.
We are balancing, though, are we not? And from the very beginning, we are balancing those efforts and funding our ally in Ukraine with a country who has state TV talking about launching nuclear weapons against us every night, and Putin's number 2 guy talking about launching nuclear weapons as well. I mean, it is you do have to admit he couldn't just turn over F-16s to him, the first week of the war.
No, I disagree, Joe. I don't think that Vladimir. I do. I don't think Vladimir Putin will understand anything but the exercise of significant power.
Right.
On that side.
You don't think, but you're willing to risk nuclear war based on your gut instinct? And I'm not being glib here. I think this extraordinarily difficult course that any president would be taking.
It's not based on gut instinct, Joe. It's based upon examination of both the history of autocrats over the last 70 years and Vladimir Putin's history during his time in power. The only time that he ever backs off is when he looks and makes an assessment of the situation, and that assessment leads him to conclude to keep his own rear end in power and safe, he's going to have to back off a little bit. Otherwise, he doesn't do that.
So would you send troops into Ukraine?
No, I would not. And by the way, when I went to Ukraine 6-7 weeks ago and I met one-on-one with President Zelensky, he made it very clear to me that he didn't want American troops and, in fact, wouldn't accept American troops.
So would you be fine with Ukraine continuing to attack Russia? Would you tell Zelensky, hey, if you got to take this war all the way to Moscow, take it to Moscow?
No, I wouldn't say that. But what I would say to him, Joe, is that he's got a war to prosecute and win. The Russians are not putting any restrictions on themselves. The murders of civilians, the kidnapping of 20,000 children or more now from Ukraine. It was 20,000 when I went before. Vladimir Putin's not showing any limits on what he's willing to do to the countryside in Ukraine and to their people. And so Zelensky has to win this war. He can't go to play as if he's going to, play neutral.
What does winning this war look like? What does winning this war look like?
Winning this war is having Putin ask to come to the table to negotiate a conclusion.